Before we get cracking on today's Football Empire video, it would be remiss of me in the first episode in this series that I've released since FM26 was open for pre-orders if I didn't mention to you that FM26 is now open for pre-order, and as ever, I've got a lovely little discount code for you. It's $44.99 on Steam. If you buy it through my link, it's less than £39, so saving you a nice chunk of cash. Still gets you the 2 weeks early access for the beta as well, which hopefully should be kind of mid-October time would be my hope, and it is still playable through Steam. You basically buy through my link. If you click the link in the description below, it'll automatically apply the discount code. You then get a little code or key that you can redeem in Steam, and it will just sit there as a Steam game as if you bought it from Steam, but you'll have saved some money and helped support the channel. Massive appreciation to those of you who've done that so far. You would not believe how much of a difference people doing that makes, especially after the year we've just had. So thank you very much to everybody who's done that. Anyone who wants to, like I say, the link is at the top of the description below. It will be in the description to all my videos now until about Christmas, I imagine. So should be relatively easy to find. But if you can't find it, just head to Fanatical and type in LOLLUJO and you'll get the discount that way too. But yeah, that's advert over. Let's crack on with football stuff, and we'll start off with a little reminder of where we left things off at the end of the last episode, because things are looking good for most of the teams in our footballing empire. Sunderland are top of the Premier League, have money to spend and money in the bank. Everything is starting to look up at Sunderland. Standard Liège continuing to struggle in terms of the title race, but looking good for European qualification. And again, there's plenty of money in the bank at Standard Liège, and they are producing some very fine youngsters for us too. Hamburg is one of a couple of big problems in the network as it currently stands. They're down in mid-table in Germany. They are struggling financially as well, and we might have to have a little bit of a rethink about how we treat Hamburg going forward. The less said about Independiente, the better. They had a absolutely rotten last season. If I can find a way to show you last season. How does Football Manager work? There you go. An absolutely rotten last season, and that needs fixing urgently. But Urawa Red Diamonds are champions of Japan. It's the first time we've won the Japanese league in nearly 25 years. So that's a nice little return to good fortune for the Red Diamonds. Although, to be fair, this is a club that have won the Champions League way more recently than they've won the J League. It's only the second time in our history we've won the J League, but we have won 4 Champions Leagues in the last 25 years or so. So fingers crossed we can get back round to winning ways in that at some point. At least we're back in it now after missing out on it entirely last season. Dinamo Zagreb also flying high at the top of the league in Croatia with money to spend as well. And then, of course, Mamelodi Sundowns continue to produce most of the good young players in the entire empire. We are top of the league in South Africa. We've already won the Champions League once, and we're looking good for ongoing future wins as well as just continuing to churn out players and send them to Europe. So the job for this January is very, very simple. Don't balls up with Sunderland and just keep everything else ticking over. I think we need, for the next season, for the next half a season, with Sunderland top of the Premier League, quite unexpectedly, all focus has to be on doing the best we can for Sunderland, and then we'll worry about fixing everyone else afterwards. Sunderland are our flagship club. Let's not mess up. And to be honest, it should be relatively hard to mess up. Famous last words, touch wood. I'm not going to panic. You're panicking. We've only got one player who's unhappy, and Johan Bakayoko. And to be honest, I wouldn't be devastated if he left. He's been here for a while, but he has only started 3 games this season. He's dropped down the pecking order after the arrival of the likes of Cedric Sinogo and Rego, who plays on the other wing. Sky Vink is having the time of his life. He's really turned into a top Premier League striker and is there in the media Dream 11 as well, alongside Erling Haaland up front. The media even think we're looking good for a top 4 finish, so we should be able to get into the Champions League for the first time. And we're going into January with some money to spend as well, and it not being immediately obvious where we even need to strengthen the squad. It's pretty solid throughout. We've got good strength in depth. We've got just lots of very good options. We've got lots of players out on loan at the other clubs throughout the empire as well. Things are looking very, very good. Please don't mess it up. The irony being, of course, we did lose the game that day. We're not at the end of January yet with Sunderland. We'll check back in again on Sunderland at the end of the transfer window. As you can see, we have dropped down to second in the Premier League behind Arsenal as things stand. But we're actually here to check in with Independiente. The Argentinian transfer window has just closed, which means, as ever, we've had a load of transfers fall through, both in and out of the club on deadline day, because it's the Argentinian way. But we have started to try and piece together a team that can be competitive. And the main way we've done it is by not loaning everybody out this season. I think the problem we've had in previous years, if you look at loan deals, is we just loaned out so many of our youngsters. So we were, because my eye wasn't fully on the ball with Independiente, we were selling all of our older players because in my mind, I wanted to do youth development. So we sold off all the old men, but then the youth players that we were supposed to develop, we loaned all of them out and we were left with very little in the middle. So job one was not loan everybody out, which I think we've done quite a good job of. There's not loads and loads of players who've left the club. We've also plugged one of the big gaps that we had in the squad, which was goalkeeper Simon Cermak, who's previously had a loan out at Urawa Red Diamonds from Sunderland, where he did win the J-League. He comes immediately into Independiente and will hopefully be as successful here as he was in Japan. He's certainly doing a nice little world tour. If this guy ends up as Sunderland's starting goalkeeper one day, he'll have definitely come round the long route. He's still only 21, played one season as a starting goalkeeper in Czechia before we signed him, didn't use him at all. He was like our fourth choice keeper, loaned him out to Japan, and we've now loaned him to Argentina. This boy is getting some passport stamps, but he comes in to be the starting goalkeeper. We've brought in a backup goalkeeper as well, and we've not really fiddled with a lot else, because actually, if you don't loan everybody out, you actually end up with some pretty decent strength in depth, and we have got some good players. So, for example, Brandon Marquez, who we signed last season, looks very, very solid. On the left-hand side, Fagundes is a legitimate wonder kid. But look, we brought him in and then loaned him out. And he didn't even play when he was loaned out. I don't even know. I can't. He's a 4-star current ability 20-year-old wonder kid, and we spent last season out on loan not playing football. Well, he's back now. He's going to play. And we've got players like that scattered throughout the squad. If we look at what the media think of us, the media think we're good for an 8th place finish, which is, I mean, it's not ideal. But we do have a player in the Dream 11. It is Juan Fagundes. So keep an eye on him. He'll probably be making his way to Europe in the relatively near future. But I'd like to think we can certainly do better than our 20th or so place finish that we did last year. It's a process here at Independiente. We don't have loads of money to throw around. We did try and throw some around before the deadline shut, but Argentina's going to Argentina. If we can be upper mid-table by the time the window opens again and bring in some decent players and continue to not loan them all out, I think we'll start turning this team around. That's the plan. And then if we have a look through the rest of our transfer windows at the end of January, we very much at Sunderland tried to not rock the boat. We didn't bring in anyone to come in and play in the first team. The only signing we've made is Sahel Holsing, who's a 20-year-old, already German international wonder kid right back. He's not going to get straight into the Sunderland team. We actually signed him with a view to loaning him to Hamburg, but we couldn't loan him straight to Hamburg. He'll probably go to Hamburg in the summer. I can't imagine he's ever going to be quite good enough to play for us, but he can certainly do a job for Hamburg, I'm sure. And then we loaned out a bunch more of our fringe players. So Cermak, we already know about, went to Independiente. We've sent Andrew Lowe, the English wonder kid right back, who we had at Standard Liège. He's gone to Hamburg instead of Holsing for now, because we needed a goalkeeper at Hamburg. Restes won't go on loan to any of the Empire clubs. So he's gone on loan to Napoli because we just don't need him anymore. And we've sent Mothwana, who we brought in from Sundowns, loaned him back to Sundowns. He now doesn't want to go on loan to Sundowns, so he can now do a loan at Standard Liège and start trying to work his way up the European structure. Next stop would be Hamburg if he has a successful loan at Standard Liège, and then maybe he'll get in our team one day. As far as on the pitch goes, we are still 2 points behind Arsenal. It's just that one defeat against Brentford, which might prove costly. The Europa League is going well, though. We've finished top of the league stage in the Europa League. League. So one way or another, Sunderland should be in the Champions League next year, whether it's through league position or through winning the Europa League. And there is a chance that if things go our way in the second half of the season, we could even win the Premier League. And wouldn't that be a lovely, lovely thing? Standard Liège, we didn't really have loads of money to be able to do loads of business. We already know about Muthwana, who I mentioned before, has come in on loan from Sunderland. The only other signing has been Cameron Archer, who has come in from Nottingham Forest because we needed a striker. We still haven't really replaced Krupi, which is an ongoing problem that we've got here at Standard Liège, and hopefully Cameron Archer can be the guy who gets that job done. Kunani, who we signed from Sundowns and has never really got in the team, he's gone on loan to Real Sporting in Spain because he didn't want to go back to South Africa, but also wasn't getting in the team here at Standard Liège. And with Archer coming in, we need him to develop, so he needs to go out on a loan, and fingers crossed we can get him back to Sundowns at some point, because I suspect that's more his level, but we might need to just let his contract run down a little bit further before he agrees to go back there. Or he might have a really successful loan and come back and get in our team. Who knows? Hamburg needed a little bit more careful surgery, so we did spend a little bit more time on Hamburg, and we needed to generate some money to make it happen. I showed you before that the financial situation was rotten, so we tried to free up some money. Namdi Collins has gone to Qatar for £9.5 million. We also sold Baku for £9.5 million to I think it's the same team in Qatar. He was a bit of a waste of money. We only had him for 18 months. He was too old to be in for that kind of money. We sold this guy to Feyenoord for £5 million. So like a good £25 million worth of players leaving the club. We've also sent this guy to have a lovely loan in Japan. We signed him. In fact, no, we signed him this window as well, and then sent him straight back. So he's a Croatian who didn't pass through Dinamo Zagreb. Instead, he's gone to Urawa Red Diamonds and been a very good player there. He wanted to come back to Europe, so we brought him back via Hamburg because he didn't want to go to Zagreb, and we've loaned him straight back to Japan again. But what we've also done is signed this guy, LOLLUJO Chotsetsi. Definitely saying that right. He's coming from Sundowns but didn't want to be loaned back. That's becoming an ongoing problematic issue. But Andrew Lowe will come in and improve the team. He was very good for us at Standard Liège, less so at Sunderland, but he was an English wonder kid until he got too old, and will hopefully now get some game time at Hamburg and will improve Hamburg as well. We've got another English fullback to play on the other side. Ben Walker comes in from Luton, and then Joel Dongmo is a 21-year-old Cameroonian defensive midfielder who comes in to hopefully give us a little bit more oomph in this position, especially because there's a very good chance we're going to lose Di Benedetto because he's got Saudi Arabian clubs lurking. He's had Real Madrid lurking before as well. So with him leaving and him 35, we've not got many options at defensive midfield, so we needed to start planning for that. There's still a lot of money lying around at Hamburg. We sold a lot of players, but didn't sign as many as I would have liked. But we will start to remedy that in the summer. We need to invest in Hamburg, and it might be that we need to sell Viper so that we can maybe invest some of that money and do a proper rebuild, because as you can see, we are falling down the Bundesliga table. As it stands right now, genuinely under threat of relegation, which would be a disaster. And then our final transfer window for the end of January is Mamelodi Sundowns. You already know about the one that we sold. He went to Hamburg. And then we did our usual thing of just buying up the Media Dream 11. So we've got a bunch more Media Dream 11 players have come in. We are dominating the league and dominating the Dream 11, and it's just what we will continue to do here. We've got so much more money than you need to be managing in South Africa, because every time we sell a player for Europe, they're for what previously would have been record transfers in South Africa. So things are going very well down here, and fingers crossed we can pick up another Champions League win. That would be super duper. Pushing forward a couple more weeks, because the transfer window closes a little bit later in Croatia than it does in the rest of Europe, but this is now our Dinamo Zagreb window. We sold a couple of fringe players. Ayrton Costa at 32 has gone for £3 million. We sold this guy for $1 million or so. But really, it's a case of just bringing in players to fill gaps that we had. There was nothing obviously that needed to change. We're going to continue winning the Croatian league every year. He's quite a decent signing, 20 years old, already 3 caps for Czechia. But yeah, we're not in any kind of risk of not winning the league in Croatia. We're also probably unlikely to ever threaten to win the Champions League, and it's more a case of keeping an eye on Bonolo Masuku and deciding at which point he makes the switch to Hamburg or maybe even Sunderland if he carries on scoring as many goals as he's scoring. But my plan at the moment, probably for the summer, is to, at Hamburg, sell Viper and replace him with Masuku. I think that's the plan as it currently stands. But as I mentioned, we're absolutely running away with the Croatian league. No fear there. And then Japan, we go all the way through to April before the transfer window closes. And we have done a little bit more business. You already knew about Kostelak, who went to Hamburg and then got loaned straight back in. We didn't really sell anyone else significant other than Magrao has finally left the Empire, having been passed around a little bit. We brought him in for Red Diamonds. He went to Hamburg. We did try and send him to Standard Liège as well, but he wasn't having any of it. But he has now moved on completely. And we've just continued hoovering up a combination of good young Japanese talent. For example, 5-star potential, 20 years old. That's a good young Japanese player, plus any Europeans we can convince to come over. So Malcolm Jeng, 9 caps for Sweden, he comes over. We've also got this guy who comes in from Luton, who can play on either wing. We've got a Spanish goalkeeper. We've got slightly more experienced Japanese player to plug a squad gap, and then another good young Japanese player. We've started the season well. We are top of the league, having won the league last year. The media think we're looking good, certainly to be in a title race, and we are going to be entering back into the Champions League, although because of it being running opposite the J League, although we won the league last year and we're now into the following season, we still haven't actually entered the Champions League yet. We enter that September, so after this episode, we actually get to go back into the Champions League in Asia. But the league's going well. Let's see if all these transfers worked and whether Sunderland can win the Premier League or not. They could not. We finished second, 6 points behind Arsenal in the end, picking up a few important defeats at crucial times, and also only made it to the quarter-final of the Europa League as well after being humiliated by Roma, shipping 5 goals against Roma. That's kind of got away from us a little bit there, I think, which is not ideal. We were dominant in the group stage, but if we're going to lose to Roma, we also lost to Milan away from home in the previous round. We're probably not quite ready to be Premier League champions yet. Skyvink did end up top scorer in the Premier League, but by my count, only added 3 goals since January. So he kind of stopped scoring in the second half of the season, at least domestically, which might be a bit of a problem because, I mean, as much as I think he's great, as much as he's in the Dream 11, do you win the league with a player who only gets 17 league goals? I'm not sure you do. Although, to be fair, he is joint top scorer in the Premier League, so I guess I can't whine about it too much. But ultimately, it's a huge leap forward for Sunderland. We are now going to be in the Champions League for the first time, even though our pitiful performance in the knockout stages of the Europa League suggests we're probably not going to be in with a chance of winning it, but at least we're in it. We've got a bunch of money to spend. We've not got any debt now. We've cleared all that debt that we accumulated in the early seasons. So we're debt-free heading into the Champions League for the first time with a very good young squad of very talented players. Lots of exciting young wonder kid type players. If we have a look at, let's sort it by ability. I mean, our best players are all early to mid-20s. We haven't got anyone who's like, oh, well, we've only got a couple more years of them. Tom Roth is the closest to that, but he's 27 and a defender. He's going to be fine for 5 more years yet. This is a team that's only going to get better. With the money that we've got as well, we should be able to strengthen. And I'd like to think next year we could actually win the Premier League with Sunderland, which means we should be able to get to the point where we start challenging for the Champions League. We're already winning the or we've already won the Champions League in Africa once and have a good chance of being able to do it again. I think we should be competitive in Asia. Once we've won 3 Champions Leagues, we unlock our North American club. So really, we just need to fix Independiente. We could only be 2 or 3 seasons away from completing the save, because the save is complete when we win all 5 Champions Leagues at the same time. Now, we're not even in North America yet, so let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. Independiente needs a lot of work, but Sunderland, Europe was the hardest task, and Sunderland are now finally moving in the right direction. Should we have a look to see what the rest of our European teams are doing? Standard Liège, we got back up to 3rd, only missing out on a Champions League spot on goal difference or goals scored or head-to-head or whatever it would be. It's not goal difference, is it? But we were very, very close, and we have a free-scoring striker here as well, Lunga Malekwa. We talked about having one at Dinamo Zagreb, but we now have our Junior Krupi replacement here at Standard Liège as well. In the league, 20 goals from 20 starts after his £500,000 move from Sundowns, where he was also scoring at a goal a game in his final season there. So he's a bit special. He's only 20. He's already got 10 caps for South Africa, and he's wanted by Manchester City. Right. This does potentially change the plan for this summer, because we might have to fast track him ahead of the fella at Dinamo Zagreb, or we might have to put one at Sunderland and one at Hamburg. But we can't let him go to Manchester City. But he's been brilliant second half of the season. Has he made it into the Dream 11? Unbelievably, he hasn't. And we do have Nkosi, who is in the Dream 11, who's on loan from Sunderland. So we've got a couple of decent South Africans starting to emerge. We need to be challenging for the title again next year with Standard Liège. We've got no money to do it. But if we sell Molekwa, then we'll have money. Don't you worry. And we are going to be selling him this summer, hopefully within the Empire. Hamburg, thankfully, didn't get relegated. We also didn't qualify for Europe. It's been a pretty poor season for Hamburg. Once again, the only bright point is Nelson Viper. I think we just got to sell him. Aston Villa want him. We've got a ready-made striker replacement there for him at Standard Liège. I think we let Viper leave. Bring your fella in from Standard Liège. Di Benedetto is wanted by Al Ali as well. We could sell £100 million worth of talent. Bring in the guy from either the guy from Zagreb or the guy from Standard Liège and rebuild this team. And it definitely needs a rebuild, because these league finishes we've had at Hamburg since we've been here are not good enough. Now, I know we're not really trying to win the Champions League with Hamburg, but ideally where we want to get Hamburg to is to be like the finishing school. If we've got Sundowns creating wonder kids, and then Standard Liège and Dinamo Zagreb developing them, as we're seeing with the 2 South African strikers, we want Hamburg to be the final stop before the Sunderland first team. And to be able to do that, they need to be playing in the Champions League, and they're not yet. So Hamburg do need to improve. And ideally, we improve them with players from within the network, players from Standard Liège and Dinamo Zagreb. That's the idea. Talking of Dinamo Zagreb, if we check in with how they've done, they did win the league comfortably, as you would expect. And Bonolo Masuku got 45 goals. He's wanted by a lower tier bunch of teams. I think the guy at Standard Liège is the one for Sunderland. He's the one for Hamburg, potentially. But we've got 2 very, very good goal scorers there who've come out of the Mamelodi Sundowns finishing school. Let's not ignore the fact that Seni Mayulu, by the way, as well, got an absolute ton of goals out of midfield, which is also ridiculous. It's just a very good team that we've got here. Arthur Vermeeren, finally looking like the kind of player we thought we were getting when we signed him for Sunderland. He's probably going to be on his way to Saudi Arabia after doing a couple of years with us. But yeah, all eyes on Masuku and the guy at Standard Liège as well. And then, of course, the question becomes, who's next from Sundowns? And it looks like it might be Mandla Reed, who's 21 years old, has got 15 goals from 17 starts. We actually signed him from Kaiser Chiefs, threw some money at them, brought him in, and he might be the next striker off of the South African striker production line. We did win the league with Sundowns comfortably. How did we get on in the Champions League? We won the Champions League as well. So that's 2 Champions League wins in 3 years from Mamelodi Sundowns. We've got South Africa. We've got Africa. The continent of Africa is nailed down. We know we can win that pretty much every season. We need to focus on the other 4s and just keep the other 4 and just keep things ticking over in South Africa. But that is jolly good. How are we getting on in Japan? Because that's the other place where we're probably closest to a Champions League win. And for the 2nd year in a row, we are well clear at the top of the domestic league. We've not actually got back into the Champions League yet, have we? So we will be re-entering the Champions League in the start of next season in Europe, mid-season here in Japan. But we've had 18 months now of being the best team in Japan. And if you're the best team in Japan, you're probably the best team in East Asia, which means you're probably going to get to the Champions League final, and then you just have to be able to beat one of the Saudi Arabian teams. So the question is this squad of players good enough to beat a Saudi Arabian team? And we don't know because we've not played one. So we'll learn a lot over the course of the next season as far as the Diamonds are concerned. And then we have the problem child of the Empire, Independiente, who look like they are recovering up to 6th place in the Argentinian league. It's still not where we want to be with Independiente. We obviously need to be getting them back into the Copa Libertadores and then to a point where we can win the Copa Libertadores, which means we need to be the best team in Argentina before we can become the best team in South America. When we are potentially going to get to the point where we can unlock some additional teams that I can basically choose where they are. And I am wondering when we are able to unlock bonus teams, I might just take a Brazilian team if Independiente don't improve fast enough. But we are moving in the right direction. Fagundes, who we looked at before, it looks like he's picked up an injury, which has cost him a little bit. But Brandon Marquez, the Uruguayan striker, is scoring lots of goals. So we've got a couple of decent Uruguayan wonder kids at Independiente. And with the right business, because there is money to spend here, with the right business, we could sneak ourselves back into the Copa Libertadores this season, which we need to, because we've not played in it for a while. When did we last play in the Copa Libertadores? 3 years ago now. That's not okay. We need to get back into that. But most important of all, I think it's pretty clear that our refocus, our reshuffle is working and it is making a difference. Sunderland are finally looking like the flagship team they were supposed to be all along. We're making incredible progress in Africa and Asia. We just need to fix the Hamburg finishing school, Independiente, and unlock a North American team, which is going to be the job for next season. Oh, not the MLS. Anywhere but the MLS. I'd rather just go to Canada, I think. And if you have enjoyed this video, please make sure you leave a nice big thumbs up on there for me. Thank you very much for bearing with me on this series as well. Obviously, it does take so much longer than typical Football Manager videos do. I'm enjoying it. I don't know that I'll ever do anything like this again because it is so time consuming. But obviously, if it continues to get incredible support, then you might force me to change my mind. But if you are new, subscribe. Don't forget to pre-order FM26 using the link at the top of the description. And thank you very much for watching. Toodle pip.